You ever do this? You go to the store for that one thing you need, you get all the way home, and then it hits you. You forgot the one thing you went for. It's so frustrating, right? Well, what if I told you that's not just you being forgetful? It's actually a clue that unlocks a huge mystery about how your brain really truly works. All right, let's get into it. So picture this. You're chilling at home, a light bulb flickers out. No big deal. Simple problem, simple solution. You grab your keys, head to the grocery store. The mission is clear. Buy light bulbs. Should be easy, right? But then you get home, you unpacked everything, the milk, the cereal, that snack you definitely didn't need, and you sit down at the kitchen table, and it's still kind of dark. And that's the moment. The light bulbs are still on the shelf at the store. We've all been there.
So what gives? Why does this happen so often? Is it just a brain fart, a moment of carelessness? Or is there something way more complicated going on inside our heads every single time we walk through those automatic doors? That's the mystery we're going to solve.
Because here's the thing. That simple shopping trip is anything but simple for your brain. It's more like a cognitive gauntlet, a full-blown obstacle course that pushes all your mental resources to the absolute limit.
I mean, let's just break it down for a second. The whole time you're in there, your brain is firing on all cylinders. You're perceiving the lights and sounds. You're trying to focus your attention on a sale sign. You're making dozens of little decisions, all while trying to pull from your memory and process what the cashier is saying. Your brain is juggling all of that at once.
And you know what? It gets even harder. Because the store itself is basically designed to mess with you, to manipulate all those mental jobs you're trying to do. And one of the biggest battlegrounds for your brain, the sales aisle.
Okay, so you're in the cereal aisle. A big, bright sign catches your eye. It's a deal. Suddenly, your brain isn't just thinking about what cereal you want. It's being presented with a choice about value. And it turns out, our perception of value is surprisingly easy to trick. Now check this out, because this is so interesting. On the surface, these two deals are exactly the same, mathematically. But your brain doesn't see it that way. 50% off feels like you're reducing a loss. You're losing less money. But buy one, get one free. That feels like a pure gain. You're getting free stuff. And our brains are wired to react way more strongly to getting something for free than to losing a little less. There's a name for this little brain trick. It's a cognitive shortcut called the framing bias. Basically, the way you present information, the frame you put around it, can totally change how we feel about it and what we decide. And just like that, while your brain is busy crunching the numbers on the better deal, those light bulbs are slipping further and further away. But dealing with tricky choices is only part of the story. To really solve the light bulb mystery, we have to talk about the biggest myth of all, the idea that your memory works like a video camera, just perfectly recording everything that happens. Spoiler alert, it absolutely does not.
Let's hop in a time machine and go back about 100 years to this amazing study by Sir Frederick Bartlett. He gave a bunch of British students a native Canadian folktale to read. Now, this story was full of things that were totally unfamiliar to them, like canoes and spirits. And all he asked them to do was remember the story and tell it back to him later. And here's where it gets wild. The students didn't just forget stuff, they actively changed the story. Canoes turned into the more familiar boats. Paddling became rowing. Their brains weren't just playing back a recording, they were rebuilding the story from the ground up, using their own knowledge and experiences as the building blocks.
This was a huge discovery. It showed us that memory isn't about retrieval, it's about creation. Every single time we remember something, we are literally reconstructing it, and our brain just fills in the gaps with whatever seems to make sense. Okay, so if our memory is that changeable, could someone else influence it from the outside? Well, that's exactly what psychologists Elizabeth Loftus and John Palmer wanted to find out in another landmark study. They had people watch videos of car accidents, and then they asked them a really simple question, but with one tiny change. Some people were asked how fast were the cars going when they hit each other, but others were asked how fast they were going when they smashed into each other. Look at that difference. Just changing that one verb made people remember the cars going way faster.
But wait, it gets even crazier. A week later, they asked everyone if they saw broken glass in the video. Now, there wasn't any broken glass, but in the group that heard the word smashed, almost a third of them falsely remembered seeing it. The question didn't just tweak their memory, it literally created a whole new one.
This is called the misinformation effect, and it proves that our memories are incredibly fragile and open to suggestion. Things we hear after an event can actually overwrite what we saw. So think about it. Back in that store,
Every sales sign, every announcement, it's not just competing for your attention. It's potentially rewriting your memory of why you even came in the first place.
Okay, so our memory is messy and easily influenced. That still kind of sounds like a flaw, right? Why would our brains be built this way? Well, the answer is the final piece of the puzzle. Forgetting isn't a bug in the system, it's a feature.
Take a look at this. This is the forgetting curve, and it basically shows that we are designed to forget. We lose information really, really fast if we don't use it or reinforce it. The default setting for our brain isn't to hold on to everything, it's to let go of whatever doesn't seem important.
And I mean, think about it. Would you really want to remember everything? Every boring conversation, every embarrassing moment, every single useless piece of information you've ever heard? Probably not. The goal isn't a perfect memory. The goal is a useful memory, one that helps us survive and make good decisions.
So, let's bring it all back to the light bulbs. Forgetting them wasn't a failure. It was the totally predictable result of a brain doing its job, managing tons of information, making decisions in a tricky environment, and constantly rebuilding reality based on whatever seems most important in that exact moment.
And that leaves us with one last really big idea to chew on. We've always just assumed that the whole point of memory is to remember the past, right? To keep an accurate record of what happened. But what if that's not its main job at all? What if the real reason we have this flexible, messy, creative memory system isn't to be a perfect historian of our past, but to be a creative simulator for our future? To let us take all the bits and pieces of our past experiences, remix them in new ways, and run simulations of what might happen next, so we can make better choices? What if forgetting isn't about losing the past, but about making room to build the future?